part of.
Brock's core values are also mine. Give people more than they expect, and always honor your promises.
This isn't a job, it's a service to help people live a healthier lifestyle.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control. Our family protecting your family.
ESPN Northwest Florida is thrilled to introduce the newest members of the Panama City Beach Chamber to our vibrant business community.
Welcome to the Beach Chamber. Right Rug Flooring, Ace Handyman Services Panama City, Diego's Burrito Factory Lynn Haven, If Wounds Could Bloom, an art therapy program, Panama City Beach Winery, Sensi, and Waymer and Associates CPA.
We're here to support your success and help you connect with our community.
Congratulations from ESPN Northwest Florida.
And the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce, reaching Bay County and beyond.
Are you hungry for authentic Mexican cuisine? Then come to El Rodeo Tequila Bar and Grill, where we serve up the freshest, most flavorful dishes on the beach. El Rodeo Tequila Bar and Grill, a great location, comfortable atmosphere, and happy hour from 3 to 7. Buy one, get one free, regular margaritas and 12-ounce house drafts. And you're going to love their lunch specials, Monday through Friday from 11 to 3. Plus, live music Wednesdays and Saturdays starting at 5:30. El Rodeo Tequila Bar and Grill, Thomas Drive, across from the Navy base.
Take your next adventure in an award-winning Kia from Bill Bird Kia. We invite you to stop by Bill Bird Kia today and test drive a new 2024 Kia. You'll see why everyone is talking about Kia. The 2024 Kia will give you the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. The SUV family has movement that inspires. Drive away today in a new 2024 Kia Soul, Seltos, Sportage, Sorento, or Telluride. Fuel the thrill and command the road in a luxury sedan from Bill Bird Kia. Drive away today in a new 2024 Kia K5. Performance, power, and design built just for you. Discover the new Kia at Bill Bird Kia. Bill Bird Kia, the original home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by 2435 East 15th Street, Panama City, or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. We'll treat you just like family and give you the peace of mind you can trust. Your local community dealer is Bill Bird Kia.
The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota. ESPN Northwest Florida. Get ready.
Give us a call, 850-215-6290.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
Oh, you gotta give it that huck.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Onion pickles.
Live and local on ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
What is going on, Northwest Florida? You're now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 right here in beautiful Panama City, and 101.9 in just as beautiful Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick, and this is your home for Mosley Dolphin football. We've got a big one on tap this Friday, which, man, is going to be here before you know it. Niceville and the Eagles travel over this way for a big game between two undefeated teams. The district is on the line in that game between Mosley and Niceville. So make sure you get out there, man. Of course, we're going to be broadcasting live on the radio, 104.3 and 101.9. We'll also have a live Facebook feed going, and Mosley has their YouTube channel, which is broadcasting it as well. So you can kind of get and our play-by-play is on that visual as well, or on that video, that YouTube video as well. So that's been pretty cool. The opportunities that we've, or the times that we've been able to have that. But I would rather you guys get out to the game, man. This is going to be a big-time game between two big-time programs and lots of collegiate talent on both sides of the field. Connor Matthews, the running back for the Niceville Eagles, is a absolute stud, and So, and Mosley's got a few studs of their own over there. And the latest, Adam Land getting an offer from Mississippi State. So they've got a commit and an offer from Mississippi State on the Mosley Dolphins. But the game will kick at 7 p.m. We'll have the pregame show riding for you guys at 6 p.m. with Coach Brian Haddad and Coach Andy Siegel. Max Delyden in the building representing Allegiant Lending Firm and not Alabama today. Well, I mean, I think it would have been he's got the IU shoes on. He's like, you know what? I'm done with representing the Alabamas and the South Carolinas of the SEC. It's time to just put on for Indiana. IUUU. I've been listening to that song all day long now.
Great song.
It is actually
Catchy.
a good song. It's catchy, and the music video that goes along with it is it's great. So when you're hearing the intro song next for Max Delyden, go check that video out sometimes if you've never seen it. You almost look like one of the guys who's not the guy.
Two white dudes.
Well, it is two white dudes. So I mean, I guess you know what they say. They all look the same. But you do kind of look like the dude. I'm gonna say on the right, but who. He's not the guy rapping. He's kind of the guy that's just...
other guy.
Yeah, he's the other guy there. Yeah, exactly.
Pumping.
Oh, man, lots to dive into. Your Minute with Max is coming up in the next segment. Top of hour number 2. We're going to get Tyler's takes on what went down in Week 6 of college football and then what to look forward to here in Week 7, that October 12th. What is that, the most popular date for wedding day?
Yeah. Or one of the top... I think the most popular in the fall, but one of like the top 5 of the entire year or something crazy like that.
And we've got Ohio State and Oregon, baby. We've got Florida and Tennessee. I mean... Does it surprise you at all that Tennessee's such a big favorite in this game? We've got, for our pick'em this week, we've got the most spreads that we've had.
I don't think so. I mean, Tennessee is a team that has under Heupel has struggled on the road. I made that point kind of going into the Oklahoma game. Yeah. You go back and look at the South Carolina game against Spencer Rattler a few years ago where they got blown out on the road. They've also, struggled against Georgia in Athens. They lost to Florida last year in the Swamp, and it's not like Florida was a great team last year. So, I mean... I don't think anybody was predicting them to lose to Arkansas, but it's not a huge surprise to me that they struggled. Now going back into Neyland, do they kind of get their mojo back? They haven't played a home conference game yet. Both Oklahoma and both Oklahoma and Arkansas are both on the road. They've got 5 of their next 6 games at the house. I mean, there's some big games in that stretch, but being at home for a lot of those games is going to be big for Heupel and Tennessee. And as they hopefully try to make it, hopefully for them, try to make a playoff push.
Yeah, right, State Chris. Yeah, that's a great point, and we'll dive into that deeper later on in the show this afternoon. Right, State Chris says, Dave, do you still have family near Tampa or just Jacksonville? I've got family in Pensacola and in Jacksonville. I consider some of my friends down there in Tampa family, but all of the ones and RJ Starcevic lives in Tampa, as you can hear him on Mondays. Right here on the Afternoon Underdogs at 420, going around the track, talking some NASCAR with him. But as far as that goes, I mean, I'm still kind of you just don't know what's going to end up happening. That thing can still get a little westward. I think it took a jog to the east, but it could get a little westward, and then my family right there in Jacksonville will be in the way. But all of my buddies are a lot like me too, where it's good luck getting them to go anywhere. They're like, we're gonna be okay, and that's
either will or won't be.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not gonna battle anyone on that. What I will say is this: is if I saw what is coming to, and I've never evacuated for a hurricane before, at least not to my knowledge, not to me being of age, If I saw that sucker coming this way, I'm telling Ray, I don't know what you expect. I'm gone, brother. I'm gone. Because it's just, and I hate to add the laughter to that one, but this one, already a category, I know it's a 4, but it seems like the winds are climbing up. That doesn't seem like much to play with, especially when you add to the fact that, we're talking all about North Carolina mostly with what Hurricane Helene did, but Tampa took a lot of flooding. And so, it's kind of like when you poke a hole in a dam or something, like that, it starts flooding through a little bit. So thoughts and prayers with wherever this thing is going to go. Obviously, if it doesn't go one place, it's going to go to the other place and affect someone. But you can really prepare for the worst and hope for the best in a situation like this. Let's see, what else do we have today? No Braves, obviously. We've got the Phillies and the Mets.
What happened to the Braves?
You know what?
chop off.
Oh, man, I hope that the Mets end up beating the Phillies, dude.
I think the Phillies are going to win tonight.
What's that?
I think the Phillies win today.
I did a little two-leg parlay. I got the, or not a two-leg parlay because I got Schwarbo hitting a bomb, but I got the Phillies winning and
I got
the Padres winning.
Yep, that's what I got tonight. Yep.
Which I'm surprised that I picked the Padres because you got Walker Buehler on the bump for the Dodgers, but Michael King.
He got, what was it, 12 strikeouts last time?
Hey, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it, but we'll talk some more baseball with Max in the coming segment, I'm sure. Unless he spends all 20 minutes talking about Hoosier football, then you never know, man. But, the big news today, I think, was the most surprising. We've been talking about the Jets. Do they get Devontae Adams? Is this the final year for Aaron Rodgers? So many different questions. And then they just come out and the owner fires Robert Saleh today.
I think the crazy thing is they escorted him out of the building.
Yeah, he didn't get to say bye to anybody or, address the team, any of that. And they said that's policy being escorted to the car by the director of security. But Woody Johnson said that it was him and only him that made that decision. Now, I didn't know that it was.
I'm sure Aaron Rodgers had something to say.
Well, I'm just saying that's kind of why I'm going with that. Why I'm bringing up him saying that is because I think that there did have to that Aaron Rodgers, if he didn't say anything, it still gives a perception that Aaron Rodgers had something to do with this. Obviously, he hasn't gotten along with any of his coaches in a long time, pretty much. I mean, is it fair to say that he had something to do with Mike McCarthy going out at Green Bay?
I mean, that's probably fair. I mean, and I think the biggest problem is I understand why people want to say it's an Aaron Rodgers issue, but there's no way that the owner of the Jets is dumb enough to side with Aaron Rodgers, who's on the wrong side of 40 and is not exactly playing.
I don't know. The Browns are doing that with Deshaun.
I'd like to, when someone's making a point, let's get
I get his point, but it's a little bit different. I don't think they're going to fire Stefanski. Or they're not going to let Deshaun Watson get Stefanski, make the decision on the head coach. And, I know it's a fun, conspiracy theory, but, he's on the wrong side of 40, not playing great football. I doubt that the Jets owner was like, oh, well, if Aaron Rodgers wants him gone, we'll get him gone. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you're going to get enough good football out of Aaron Rodgers to make that worth it for you.
What did you say, Caveman Rick?
Oh, if you look at the Cleveland Browns, okay, they're basically, for lack of a better term, they don't want to swallow their pride by yanking Deshaun Watson. They're saying we gave him all this money and a guaranteed contract, even though he's the worst, not only quarterback, but probably backup in the league right now, and they're still starting the guy. You know what I mean? And there's you had Joe Flacco, right, last season. Why didn't you just keep that guy? That guy was perfectly fine, got you to the playoffs. Look what he's doing over in Indy right now. That obviously was an ownership kind of a move. Same thing when you saw with David Tepper in Carolina. You see all these meddlesome owners. I mean, why have a general manager if you're not going to let that guy do his job and you're just going to come right in and say, I'm dropping the hammer and I'm getting rid of this guy. And then, on top of that, to have him, escorted out of the building and stuff, too. I mean, that's kind of petty, if you ask me.
Yeah, escorting out of the building is a little bit of a hard-o move. I think
if you're going to do that, you should just.
Guys.
I'm with you. That's a locker room deal.
You could have just left him in England.
What was he? He was 20 and 36.
Not let him board the plane.
20 and 36. Worst, if for any coach that's coached the Jets for a minimum amount of 40 games, that's the worst winning percentage of any coach. And then the owner also said that this is the best team that he's had in 25 years. If you feel that way, then why do you make the move right here at this juncture of the season?
To get ahead of it. Nip it in the bud. I mean, he should have got ahead of it.
Nip it in the bud. Okay, Marty.
Should have got ahead of it earlier. I mean, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know that Salah wasn't the guy, but I don't know why they...
I think Salah got the benefit of the doubt because of the quarterback situation, and they were assuming Aaron Rodgers was going to come in and magically fix that, and obviously he hasn't. I mean, they've scored the same amount of points through 5 games as they did last year with Zach Wilson and everybody else. It's just... there's obviously... I mean, I think there's just a reason why poor teams tend to be poor, and it starts at the very top. And I'm not saying it's anything it's just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah. Granted, Zach Wilson is horrible.
Oh, 100%. But I mean, it's not like Aaron Rodgers is thriving in New York either right now. No. So what? It's obviously more than just an Aaron Rodgers or even a Robert Salah, because I mean, outside of Rex Ryan's 2 years where they went to the AFC Championship game, I mean, the Jets have been it feels like the Jets have been fairly relevant for most of our lifetime. Maybe I'm over exaggerating.
Irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most Maybe I'm over exaggerating. Maybe they're more relevant in the 90s or early 2000s, but like it doesn't feel like
ever
really
since Namath and the Finger Wag, dude, they haven't been relevant.
Okay, so good, close enough.
In our lifetime, yeah. And they did have the couple of years, right, with Mark Sanchez, as you were mentioning. But as soon as the butt fumble happened, it felt like that was all over. It was like that's the depiction. That's your analogy. Is they almost got
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now seeing him look going on.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. He's got like the man bun and everything back there.
They were decent when they had Chad Pennington for a little while. Old noodle arm.
Yeah, not too bad, but I don't know if they were ever truly viewed as like a Super Bowl contender though. Like, right? It was those 2 years where they made the AFC Championship. People believed it, but outside of that,
and that was all defense.
You know what? You know what Mark Sanchez is going for?
What's that?
He's looking like he's like the manager of a casino.
Like a pit boss. Just
maybe like a one step above the pit boss, like the head of the pit bosses.
The head of the pit bosses, the capos.
I'll let you make your analogies.
Zach Wilson started 33 games, 6 different quarterbacks for Salah. Zach Wilson, 33 of those games. Mike White, 7. Aaron Rodgers has started 6 now. Joe Flacco with 5. Trevor Siemian with 3. And Tim Boyle with 2. Which also, that's not a recipe for success, right? Over your, 36 games or 56 games, you never had any sort of consistent cohesion at the most important position in the game of football. And this is my thing, too, is Aaron Rodgers did not play football last year. As you mentioned earlier, he's on the wrong side of 40. But I still feel like there's time. It would be one thing if the Dolphins weren't having the issues that they're having. It would be another thing if the Bills were looking like they were firing on all cylinders. But this would have been the game I would have at least, all right, let's see how we do, because they got the Bills this coming, I believe it's Monday night. I would have seen how do we perform in that game, and if you still don't believe in Salah after that, then I guess you cut ties at that. But I feel like unless a coach did something wrong, he should always be allowed to say goodbye to his guys.
For sure. And I mean, they're literally, we're one game out of first place with a chance to take hold of first place Monday night. So it does seem like odd timing. Like obviously that wasn't the best performance in London, wasn't, but Aaron Rodgers still almost pulled that out.
Yeah.
And again, maybe he's starting to get back into the groove with it. But it's just it's very odd timing for a team that's, and it's not like you said, their division sucks right now.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are irrelevant. The Patriots are irrelevant. So it's a 2-horse race for the most part. Mm-hmm. And one of the horses is not that great either at the moment. Like it's I mean, Josh Allen is 9 for 30 on Sunday or something crazy. Like it was ugly.
I'm a big Josh Allen hater.
What did they think Salah was going to do? Like do Office Space, get like a disc and stick it in the computer and steal a bunch of money from them, or do something like really? I mean, come on, dude.
As far as him getting escorted off the property, I think one of those. And again, I'm on the side where I feel like you should be able to say your piece. I think with this situation, the owner just wanted to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. And I mean, just think about that. You're going into work on a daggone Tuesday morning, and you don't think that you've done anything wrong. Obviously, you know that everything could be in a better position, but you've also had to deal with a lot of just New York Jet type squabbles, right? And then all of a sudden it's, we've decided to go in another direction, and we're going to go ahead and move the defensive coordinator up to interim head coach. And then now they don't know who's going to be calling the plays.
Do they still have Hackett?
Yeah, he's the OC.
That's wild. He's clearly an idiot too. I mean,
that's another. Aaron Rodgers has brought anyone that he thought was going to help him be successful.
Did Rodgers bring Hackett though, or did you think Hackett's?
They got Hackett first, I think, to get Rodgers.
Yeah,
But I think because that's just a puppet for Rodgers. Like clearly, when he was in Green Bay, it was just Rodgers and then LaFleur. Because we're seeing LaFleur strive still with Malik Willis and Jordan Love.
Didn't they have Hackett for 1 year before Rodgers came, I think?
The Broncos had Hackett as a head coach.
That's
and
right,
then he
Broncos,
got But no, I think he was at the Packers though. He was OC at the Packers.
He was.
And then he goes to the Broncos as a head coach for 1 year, and then time management was abysmal, so they got rid of him. And then
even when he went to the Broncos, it was wildly speculated the Broncos were going to trade for A-Rod.
Yeah.
And that was why they hired Hackett. And then when A-Rod didn't go, all of a sudden he gets fired after 1 year. Coincidence? Maybe not. I don't know. But
there's got to be some correlation there, though, right? Like the fact that you got, and there's got to be some correlation too. maybe you just don't want to blow the whole thing up. But if you feel like you've got your best team in 25 years and you're willing to get rid of the head coach of that, then why even hold on to your coordinators at that point in time? Just blow the whole thing up and let Aaron Rodgers be the OC.
Maybe just as like a devil's advocate thing here. If Saleh was that loved in the locker room, I think they'd let him say something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think you could better hold on to the team for the rest of the year if Saleh goes in and gives his piece, if he was like the guy for those guys. I think that, I mean, if you want to kind of read between the lines, like, I'm not saying he was this popular, but I think if he was like a coach that those guys would go into battle for, run through a brick wall for, I think you let him go say his piece. But by not doing it, maybe Saleh wasn't the most popular head coach in the world with those guys.
Yeah. Or maybe,
I'm with you.
All right, that's a good lane to take.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, maybe the owner was thinking that the players could fight back on, and they're not going to change his mind.
Yeah.
But maybe the opposite of that could be the case.
Sure.
And again, we're never really going to know this. It is fun to speculate, if you will, about it. But Monday Night Football had a pretty decent game. I mean, are you starting to worry about? I know that the NFL isn't as big to you, nowhere near as big to you as what college football is, but are you starting to think, all right, maybe the Chiefs do have what it takes to 3-peat?
I mean, obviously pretty invested in the Chiefs because my girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I always try to catch as much of their games as I can, and I mean, it's crazy to watch Patrick Mahomes play when like Rashee Rice goes down, Isaiah Pacheco goes down, and they bring in guys like a Juju Smith-Schuster and a Kareem Hunt that nobody would have thought twice about if they had gone to other teams probably, and they just come in and they just keep humming, and Patrick Mahomes starts doing whatever, and all of a sudden Travis Kelce decides he knows how to play football again. I mean, it's just got to be scary because that defense is still playing phenomenally. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid is still Andy Reid, and they just find ways to mix and match. And I feel like what we saw with Brady for a while. You know, he would have some receivers that nobody else would consider elite. I know he had the year with Randy Moss, but I mean, nobody was thinking Julian Edelman was a threat before he got hooked up with it. You know,
he was a
Brady,
quarterback at Kent State for
Wes
crying out
Welker,
loud.
kind of same thing. You know, you put these guys around him that maybe with other quarterbacks seem like nothing, but then Patrick Mahomes finds ways to elevate these guys, and that's what makes him special. Is in that third down run. If everybody who saw the game knows exactly which run I'm talking about, like he does something like that, and it just makes his team believe that he can do anything. Which I mean, he kind of has proven he can.
I mean, on both sides of the ball, right? He can wreck wide receivers if he needs to.
Right. So I mean, like the fact is, as long as Spagnuolo is coaching up that defense, they a top 5, top 7 defense in the NFL, and you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, like betting against them is a fool's errand. They're not going to go undefeated, and they may not win the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't want to bet against them with that kind of combination.
Did you see that stat too? That it was like 1,400 days since Kareem Hunt ran for over 100 yards, and like 1,200 days since Juju's received for over 100 yards. It's just like the Andy Reid effect, man.
It's insane.
Which one do you think is more surprising of those two statistics right there?
Because he's terrible.
Right. And that's what we were talking about yesterday. Me and Brian, Coach Brian Haddad, were talking about this game, kind of exiting the show yesterday, and I think he was saying that I think it's going to have to be one of those, third or fourth string wide receivers. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Juju Smith-Schuster? Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Look at him.
I think you guys got to pump the brakes on the Andy Reid stuff, though, and attribute it more to Patrick Mahomes, because I'm a Philadelphia fan. We've had Andy Reid before Kansas City. If he was this magical guy for wide receivers, he would have took guys like James Thrash and Freddie Mitchell, and he would have turned them into all-stars, which didn't happen in Philadelphia. And that was because they had Diamond McNabb.
I don't think he's
not Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think he's like a wide receiver. I think just with, I think he's kind of aged like fine wine. Like he's just kind of, you become like an offensive genius on some of the stuff he calls.
I'm not saying he's going to turn Juju Smith-Schuster into like an all-pro wide receiver. I just think his combination with Andy Reid, because we saw Philadelphia there for a while, they were churning and burning backup quarterbacks in a second-round pick. I mean, Kevin Kolb, they were able to trade him for a second-round pick. They had a couple guys whose name, there was like 2 or 3 guys in a row that Andy Reid was able to let come in, play some snaps behind Donovan McNabb, and they were able to trade away for second, third-round picks, which because of the way his offense made them look. And then you add in somebody with the physical abilities of Patrick Mahomes. I think it's just a unique combination. And I mean, they've won 3 of the last 6 Super Bowls for a reason.
Yeah.
Like and they're odds. I mean, I don't know if they're odds-on favorite, but I mean, they're one of the last 2 undefeated teams left, and Pacheco will eventually come back. I don't think Rashee Rice will come back this season, but Xavier Worthy's probably going to get more comfortable. If Travis Kelce starts heating up, if Kareem Hunt starts getting more comfortable, then all of a sudden, like,
who's that other tight end too? Gray?
Noah Gray.
Yeah. He's a heck of a blocker.
He's a steady guy for him. You know that they've got guys like that are just steady. McCole Hardman's been there for most of his NFL career. Nothing's flashy, but had 6 catches for like 50 yards or something like that last night. Like, I mean,
did Reed? Did he win a ring in Philly or no?
No. We got to the Super Bowl with T.O. that year, and then we ended up losing.
And T.O., what, do you have like a broken back in that game?
No, broken leg. He had broken leg in the season, and he came back actually for the Super Bowl. He wasn't there for the playoff run.
Yeah. Man, that was who was that lost to? Not the Panthers. Who did y'all lose to?
In the Super Bowl? Patriots.
Yeah. And then y'all got him back later on.
Yeah.
With Nick Foles and the Phillies special.
Yeah, without Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
And without T.O.
Well, I think that's and again, I think
without Andy Reid.
What makes the wide receivers better is the offensive mind of Andy Reid, but then having a quarterback that is just as lethal. So everyone's right on that particular debate there. It's not, if Patrick Mahomes is there, I don't think Andy Reid is taking, and we're talking about one game for Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Like, does that continue?
He's not going to average 150 yards in the next 10 games or anything.
I think that there's going to be one constant, and that's going to be Travis Kelce, and now we're starting to see it get to the consistent level that we've come to expect, and then you'll see one of those guys just be a flash in the pan, and they'll just kind of rotate through that. And man, if they get Pacheco back, and now you're talking about a pretty dangerous backfield if Kareem Hunt can keep kicking.
They'll probably trade for a wide receiver too, right? Like a middle tier one.
I mean, Devontae Adams is on the table, but the Chiefs aren't going to do
no way.
Right? No doubt. But the Chiefs and the Bills are two teams that are monitoring the situation, and if the Raiders are willing to, which is even more asinine, eat some of the cost, then they could possibly.
Higgins available maybe from the Bengals, but still again AFC, and it's kind of like one of your rivals too. So I don't know if you make that deal.
It's like the Bills. What was it? The Bills and the Chiefs on draft night. Last draft, they traded, right? And the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy, and the Bills got Keon Coleman. And it's just one of those things. Like, I just don't think the Chiefs should not be allowed to trade. They should be allowed to trade.
It's kind of like when the Spurs make a trade, you know?
Yeah.
You're just like,
or the Rays.
Yeah. Or even like, I hate to say it too, like the Warriors. It's just like, that's going to pan out. They know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, goodness. Well, we ran a little long there. 850-215-6290. You're riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for the Auburn Tigers. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Legend is next.
The cat's out of the cradle, brother. Alabama owes you. It ain't Nick Saban. It's pathetic. We own y'all. Y'all running around talking about you the standard. No, we the standard. Get it through your head. We own this league.
Paul Feinbaum, weeknights, 6 to 10 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Tuesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 87 and a wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze out of the northeast and a temperature of 71. Slightly cooler tomorrow around 79 with some clouds and a wind around 18 miles per hour out of the northeast. Sunny Thursday and quite warm around 80. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
At Brock Lawn and Pest Control, we're proud to be awarded the distinction of being Quality Pro certified.
Our technicians have passed rigorous training in eco-friendly application and prevention of pest treatments.
Part of the program is the practice of integrated pest management.
IPM's goal is to prevent pests from ever entering your home. It includes inspection, prevention, education, and when necessary, application.
We're proud to be Quality Pro certified.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, the standard and level of trust.
He doesn't live paycheck to paycheck. He lives transaction to transaction.
I need about $350.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs. on ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are live. This is the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe, your home for Mosley Dolphin football. We'll let this ride for a second. Turn it up some. Big Ten, who's your daddy? All right, do me a favor. Fade it down. Pause it where it's at. And whenever we finish up this segment, we'll turn it back up for Max to ride on out of here.
The only time we've been 6-0. Got to ride it.
That is, this is Indiana. I don't know who the artists are. The Indiana boys.
Two guys who made a sports marketing video. Viral.
It did. Reading the comments on that is like, oh, I'm an Indiana fan for real. And then someone was like, is anyone else here jamming out to this during coronavirus? Like, okay. So that was like a 4-year-old comment.
Yeah,
it's a 13-year-old song. So,
and that was like right when they were good for that little stretch too.
Yeah, 2013, 2015 too was like a nice, or 2011, 2015 I think was a pretty good stretch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Y'all don't have very many of those football years. This is Signetti, man. He's like been taking lessons from DJ Khaled or something because all he does is win.
They Google me.
Yeah, Google me. That man, he's got some
I like him. Well,
he's got some courage. I was gonna say another word there, but I chose courage.
Some balls.
Well, I was gonna say stones, but
some stones. Yeah. I mean, I know it's like super early, so I'm not trying to overreact too much, and we haven't played anyone that good. But I mean, we haven't been 6-0 ever, so I'm gonna overreact. But I still do think that he is a very good coach, and we're probably gonna be a stepping stone school for him still at the end of the day, which I don't blame him. Yeah. I mean, Google him. He wins.
I mean, seriously.
He does. He has like an 85% or 90%. I know it's been James Madison now here, but he built up James Madison right away when they moved into this level of football and is winning now. And it's weird to see Indiana look, I mean, they're executing in the red zone, and I know it's been, UCLA, Northwestern, but wins win.
Well, and it's not just wins or wins, though, because outside of the game against Maryland, I'm sitting here looking, and you guys have won by 3 or more possessions in every game.
Yep, good teams win, great teams cover, Dave. We covered against Maryland, too.
And some teams are, they act great for 1 week, and then they're anchored down the next week.
Yeah, no kidding. And then the one other fun fact, too, is we scored 40-plus points per game, 5 straight games, first time in school history.
How about that? Now, do you think that the easy portion of your schedule does not bode well for what's ahead? Nebraska this Saturday, then it looks like... you got to buy this week. Okay.
Hosting Nebraska, we should be good. I know we host Washington, too, and then we're at Michigan State, and then we host Michigan. So in a perfect world, hosting Michigan 9-0 would be pretty fun. I would probably go to that for 9-0.
If you're 9-0?
Yeah. I don't
Michigan? Make a game day there?
It would be, yeah.
I don't think Michigan will help that cause very much.
I would think they could. I could see them doing it if Indiana's 9-0.
Yeah.
You're probably talking a top 12 team. Michigan would be a big enough name. Like it'd be more of like an excuse to go to Indiana, which is probably not a place they've gone to ever. If I was guessing.
Nope. 2018, my senior year of college, they went because we were week 0 against Ohio State, and we lost 56-0.
Week 0 college game day.
Yeah.
Okay, so fine for the second time
cool.
ever. Second time ever.
But no, you're right. I mean, it's not on the radar.
Yeah.
Man, and then, but having that back-to-back weeks, it is nice that you're not playing both of those teams on the road.
Right.
Because that would be tough.
But just got to go 1 week at a time. So
that's all you can do.
And, even if they're 8-1, say, against Michigan, you beat Michigan, never know.
I think if Indiana ever finishes, like when y'all finish with 8 or more wins, isn't that like, hey, man, we had a heck of a football season.
But that's not Coach Sig. He wants to win them all.
Yeah.
He said 6-6. F that. That's what he said in his interview.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh wow, we're happy we're bowling." No, but I like it. I don't know. No BS.
What Tom Allen, right? That was the coach prior.
Love everyone.
Well, and he did it. He had some good years, but that was mainly that 2020 year.
He's the DC at Penn State now, and a lot of them are calling for his head. And so a lot of Indiana fans, as a joke, are like, have you tried loving each other more? But plus, like, Penn State is like, their comp is like Texas A&M of the SEC, where it's like a weird cult school.
Yeah.
Of like,
I think what have we no
home run Pete Alonso
comparisons last year, Penn State to Ole Miss. Not necessarily the high flying offense by any means, but just always having those expectations of being a thorn in the side of teams in the SEC and possibly rising above and being the cream of the crop, and then it just never formulates.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it really is true. But I mean,
Texas A&M kind of has that same ability. They've just, I think, because of all of the high recruiting classes that they've had, they've lost some steam in the eyes of the outsiders.
Yeah, it seems like Elko's doing a good job, and I mean, take it at what you want, because Florida's obviously not that good, and Mizzou might be kind of fraud too after watching Brady Cook continue to play football.
I think the biggest part of the Elko hire was just they had the talent. Like, you know, we've talked about the recruiting class. They've got the oil money, but like just the guy who's going to get guys to do what they're supposed to do. And I think we saw with Jimbo at the end of his time at Florida State, and obviously with most of his time in College Station, he just wasn't able to get guys to do what they were supposed to do. And that's important in football, or any sport really, is getting everybody to be doing the same thing at the same time.
Oh, how'd the Mets take the lead?
Alonso.
Is that a polar blast?
Most homers off any starting pitcher in the league.
We need some global warming happening over there in New York right now.
Yeah.
Get rid of those polar bears.
And that is Jose Iglesias. I'm assuming that he'd be in the field if he's that high in the lineup.
It was Vientos at third, which is impressive because he's not a good Met. So everything's clicking. And
are you surprised at all by the New York Mets season? Yeah, I know that we've talked a lot about the Braves, but
it's cool for them to see this. I mean,
I just don't, there wasn't really expectations or hype for them to be there. I feel like they've also dealt with injuries with Francisco Lindor this year, and were able to battle through them and find themselves in a down, not looking like they're going to move on to the next round, and then Polar Pete.
Yeah, and Alonso's had a good couple game stretch here now, but at the end of the day, still, he had a pretty underwhelming season. A lot of guys underperformed, but the arms showed up for them. And Lindor, I mean, he'd be, an MVP in most years outside of Ohtani. So, he was a heck of a player this year.
Do you think that the American League players now are excited that there's an opportunity to win MVP?
Win MVP, probably.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Judge is pretty much, I guess he's the...
Does that count as a catch?
I would say no.
You didn't complete the process of a catch, right?
Yeah. In football, it's absolutely not a catch, right? But normally the only time that you're going to get the transfer rule in baseball is when you're turning two.
They're arguing that they're doubling them up.
Yeah, so they're calling him safe, and that's so a little play-by-play action here in the baseball game. Had a deep fly ball to right field. Nick Castellanos goes back towards the wall and kind of loses his footing a little bit, discombobulated, hitting the wall. Makes the initial catch, ball in the webbing, but I don't think that he ever solidified that catch. It's a little
he's never been known for his mitt.
Yeah. No, he's definitely there for his bat. There's no doubt about that. But he's still playing in right field in a big time playoff game. And let's see here what our thoughts are.
That's a catch.
Oh, that's a catch. That's
a catch. They should be doubled off.
That should be a catch.
Yeah. That's what should happen. That's what should happen. But will it? We're talking about officials here. Is that ball moving? It's on the transfer. That's an absolute catch right there, and that should be 2 outs, and that should get the Phillies out of the inning.
Why are New York fans so punchable? Like
punchable.
Yes. Them and LA fans just like all those guys.
850-215-6290 if you'd like to give us a
Can we talk about the Dodgers for a sec,
Yeah,
too?
for sure.
Talk about like a socially inept franchise. Like Jack Flaherty, how do you go 5 innings, 4 runs, and you're talking smack? Like talking to Machado.
Machado like that?
Yeah. Machado would murder him in a fight. 2, Jack Flaherty is like the softest dude on earth. He's a mental midget. He should have been like a top 5 pitcher in the MLB, and he is so mental. Like Adam Wainwright had him under his wing. He was going to be like a Cy Young.
Yeah.
And he just like commits to the wrong things. Like he cares more about social justice than he does about pitching baseballs, and he just totally lost his craft. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that the second the Tigers traded him, they popped off. They went from 0.2% and made the playoffs because everyone on the team hated him.
Wild card delight and always feeding you some information.
I was watching a ton of stuff like Dave Roberts too. Like the Dodgers. Okay, it doesn't help too that and FS1, ESPN, they're all guilty of it. Glaze Ohtani so hard that, it's like 4 batters till Ohtani. And it's like, okay, we all know how the batting lineup works. Like, okay, like, 5 days or 4 days till college football happens. Cool. But Manny Machado, too, throws the ball. And Manny Machado is obviously, not the friendliest person. He's a guy you want on your team, don't want to play against because he'll
It's kind of like Tommy Pham.
Yeah. I mean, Tommy Pham is just...
He'll slap you in the mouth.
And he'll get stabbed in a parking lot 30 times. But he...
wasn't Jack Flaherty and Manny Machado talking about fighting in the parking lot after the game?
Was it that? No, it was. I thought it was Winker. It was someone on the Mets was like, yeah, meet me in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Or no, someone on the Phillies. And they're like, you never showed up.
Oh.
Because Jesse Winker is kind of soft.
Yeah,
He's from like Windermere, Florida.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, why would they want to fight a Philly? Somebody from Philly,
Yeah,
not smart.
Yeah, Jesse Winker he's the silver spoon guy. So anyway,
I thought I read something about that though. Jack Flaherty and Manny Machado exchanging words to that level, and
Jack Flaherty would never show up.
Yeah,
he's just a verbal tough guy.
How cool would that be though? Like that starts becoming a normal thing where it's like, all right, after the game, boxing gloves on.
That'd be awesome. I would love to see Jack Flaherty get smoked. But Machado threw the ball. Did you see that?
Yeah, at the dugout. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Roberts.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's what Dave Roberts is saying.
Yeah. Dave Roberts.
Well, he didn't say it like that.
No,
basically he did.
Yeah.
He said like what he did was like not cool.
Right, but he clarified and made sure to say, I'm not saying that he threw it at me.
But he also like preferenced that saying I know his past and I know this guy, and like he basically said, yeah, he threw it at me is what he said.
Yeah, it's like, dude, cry more. Anyway,
wait, are you talking about Dave Roberts cry more?
Yeah, it went foul ball. It went 3. Yeah, Machado threw it. It bounced like 3 times.
Yeah,
you're a baseball player. I've seen guys catch bats in the dugout. Like he is fine.
You're talking about the Evan Longoria. Well, no, that's not a bat.
You know what I'm talking about? That one where the guy swung and the guy in the dugout went one-handed catch. Yeah, like the Dodgers just make it so easy to dislike them. And I'm so glad Profar did that thing where he robbed the homer and then acted like it was out and threw it back. That is awesome. Bring back stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, he's had a great year, so he deserves to. He can do what he wants.
And that's a heated rivalry, too. It's not like we're just talking about, the Dodgers versus anybody. It's the Dodgers versus the Padres, which is and been a great series, too. And for the Padres to get the better of the Dodgers, 10-2, 10-3?
Yeah, it's like 2.
I love that.
It's kind of funny, too, because it's like 2 fan bases that no one really likes, outside of that area, because it's like, at least with, like, say, Philly, that's a rabid fan base. Like, those guys are following from game 1 to game 162.
Yeah.
And, like, the Padres and Dodgers fans probably start following, mid-September.
Depends on how the record's going by then.
Yeah, like, you've got some fans everywhere, but, like, it's a lot more bandwagoners. Like, it's like the NHL. Like, when the Blackhawks would play the Kings in the playoffs, they wouldn't even sell out. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's a conference championship.
I don't know. I feel like if I was a Dodgers fan, I probably wouldn't tune in until October anyways, because what's the point? We know we're going to be there.
And their only ring, too, is COVID.
Yeah,
Mickey Mouse one.
Mickey Mouse. I mean, they had some prior to our time, right?
Yeah, but like in this era, they're just buying everyone.
And I love to see teams. Padres are another one, though. It's not like the Padres don't spend money on their payroll. The Braves have started to become a team. The Phillies spend a lot of money on their payroll.
That's what you.
That's why you got to love the Tiger. Well, yes and no, though, because the Rangers spent a lot of money last year, but the Diamondbacks, I don't think that they spend a ton of money on their roster.
The Mets spent a lot of money, and they're here now.
Mets spent a ton of money, but then I think that they owe Scherzer an exorbitant amount of money, but so he counts against the
still
the
paying
books.
Bobby Bonilla.
And yeah. I don't know. And I mean, AJ Preller, the GM of the Padres, wakes up and, just goes for the nuclear option on everything.
Yeah.
You never know what he's going to trade. I was going to say, wakes up and. But he is like a guy who is so erratic so he makes some trades. You're like, wow, that's awesome. And somewhere you're like, wow, he just sold the farm to make a wild card spot. So.
Also, Ryan Mulvey was saying, and I can't verify this, and maybe you've heard this, Caveman Rick, that this is the first time in history that all 4 divisional series are tied at 1.
I did not hear that, but that's kind of interesting.
That's That's what he said, and he said he saw it on the internet. He didn't get to the point of actual verification, but I was just thinking about, man, that's tough to believe. As long as baseball's been going on,
right.
First time. How wild is that for a sport that's been going on forever? To have 4 series and Royals Yankees. That one that we saw going 1-1 this early in the game.
I guess so. It's been. Because the MLB is like always changing the playoff structure, I feel like. It's been in place for almost 30 years now.
Okay. So
it's still,
But there's still always been divisional series, though. Because
the 1-1.
Oh, okay. All right.
Of like how it's structured, like best of 5. Because you know how they kind of kept moving it around?
Yeah.
But,
well, it is. I will say that people might not like the wild card format and, having the 7 total seeds making it into the playoffs. But one thing I'll say is that it sure makes postseason baseball a lot more interesting to watch, because every year I'm picking against the wild cards, and every year the wild cards are making some sort of a run, ain't they?
It's 6 each, right? 6.
Is it 6 each?
Yeah. Because 2 buys and then
2 buys and then 4 teams. Yeah. 6 teams. 7 in the NFL.
I'm glad.
Oh,
well, it was 7-8 years ago that they were doing the one game.
Yeah.
Because I remember Arietta, the complete game against the Pirates.
Dude, that was wild to think about.
162 games.
Yeah, you play one game. Like, I get if you're tied and you need to play a 163, but you've played 3 games against everyone. Like, whenever you're playing throughout the season, you've got a 3-game series bare minimum, and now you're just going to go to, all right, boys, we're going to decide this one on one game. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me, but
more reason to have an ace.
Yeah, no, that's a great reason to have an ace. And is that not what's kind of going on to a small extent with the Detroit Tigers and Tariq Skubal?
Yeah, he is incredible.
Dude.
He's awesome.
And to keep it rolling week in and week out, or start in and start out is
season long.
Yeah.
So dominant.
Would you, so Chris Sale, Tariq Skubal, obviously age is on the side of Tariq Skubal. Who had a better year, though?
It's tough because Sale has always been injured, and he finally was pretty healthy. I would say Skubal just because he was so dominant, like just every start. And as a strikeout
Skeens, man. For a rookie, too. That kid did pretty damn good this past season.
And it's funny because he's not even going to win Rookie of the Year, right? Aren't they saying it's going to go to Jackson
Merrill?
Probably Merrill.
Which is
like the playoffs, too. So, that probably helps. And having a better record and stuff.
Regular season award.
Yeah, but
I don't know. But it should go to, I think it should go to Skeens over Merrill, though. It's so hard to be like an ace right away in the MLB. I don't know.
Hell, you might be able to Skeens. No, you can't give him Cy Young.
And it's crazy because who's the Rookie of the Year in the AL? It's, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'll have to look that
Somebody on the Orioles?
Looks like it's going to be, Luis Hill from the Yankees.
Really?
Yeah, Colton Cowser's up there. That one's a little bit closer.
Gross race.
Two-man race in the American League.
They should just give 2 to that.
Now, according to this, let me see when this was last updated.
Because Shota is the 3rd best, and that Shota would win in the AL.
September 9th, Fox Sports has the NL Rookie of the Year odds at Paul Skeens -400, Jackson Merrill at +280.
I don't think that's right. I'm pretty sure I saw it the other way. Like I saw Merrill was like -300.
Yeah, I'm sure that you could find different numbers at different places. So here on covers.com, Luis Hill -225 and Colton Cowser +235. And then when you go to the National League, of course. Paul Skeens -145, Jackson Merrill +115, and that's of September 24th. Because it was a huge swing though, because it was Skeens, and then it got to the talk of are they going to shut him down? But they never shut him down though. They let him go throughout the rest of the year. So I get the season that Jackson Merrill had. Now I know AG is a big proponent of Jackson Merrill. We've got to take a break, Max. You got 15 more minutes in here.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, play that song for me, Caveman Rick, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Enjoy this tune.
Illinois about to explode. Big student section of the nation, bring that racket like McEnroe. Got a Cuban with Mark Cuban. This just in, got a top recruit committed. Will you ride in like me? This is Indiana. Yeah, we do it big. Boston on the big end. You know what it is. 'Cause this is how you.
Nope, and down the sideline.
ESPN Northwest Florida brings you live play-by-play coverage all season long. With David Hayes.
Touchdown, Mosley Dolphins.
And Kyle Wright.
You take the top off the defense, and the interception turns into points for the Mosley offense.
Exclusively on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Tuesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 87 and a wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze out of the northeast and a temperature of 71. Slightly cooler tomorrow around 79 with some clouds and a wind around 18 miles per hour out of the northeast. Sunny Thursday and quite warm around 80. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hi folks, it's Tracy with Tracy's Fine Jewelry and Coin and Bullion Reserves. Did you know that we do more than just sell some of the finest jewelry in town? We can engrave on your wedding band, locket, Yeti cup, or almost anything. Need your watch battery changed? We can do that too. Our expert will even evaluate your coin collection. And of course, we always pay top dollar for your old gold and silver jewelry. See, there's a lot more to Tracy's Fine Jewelry than a lot of pretty sparkly things. Come and see us today at Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Turf Pro Lawn and Pest Control. They take pride in caring for their customers' property by providing lawn and whole house pest control. Whether you have roaches or any other unwanted bugs in your home, Turf Pro has you covered. Or if your lawn needs weed control, fertilize, insect control, Turf Pro has you covered by providing custom treatments to meet your property's needs. No property is the same, so why should it be treated that way? Turf Pro, where the blue and yellow trucks make your lawn green. Call 850-890-5820.
Who was hired? Who was fired? Trades, drafts, and playoffs. We're talking about it.
That trade, when it was made, was the right trade.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're back in the doghouse listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for Mosley Dolphin football. I'm David Hazel on with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rig, who's a big Phillies fan, and the Mets hold a 1-0 lead with 2 outs in the top of the third, but they do have runners on first and second. Then you're going to get the nightcap tonight, which is going to be the Dodgers and the Padres. We won't have any of those games on air, so you can look forward to listening to good old Paul Feinbaum here. And Paul probably had how do you think he felt about that Vanderbilt win? I haven't listened to him. I know he said a couple of things on Get Up, but I haven't tuned into much sports media. Whenever they start showing that, I turn it off pretty quick.
I know the feeling. I can imagine. I can imagine him watching that game and be like, oh my God, I can only imagine the calls I'm getting on Monday. Like you just know that has to be going, and kind of probably the same thing happened the week before playing Georgia. Yeah. And he was like, oh man, the calls I'm going to get on Monday. But this week I was like, oh man, the calls I'm going to get on. Like, man, that's just talking about like in the course of 7 days, just a huge roller coaster of emotion for the Bama faithful for sure. I mean,
well, I don't know about for the Bama faithful as much as for the Bama sign-ons, if you will. I think for the faithful, it was like, well, you have to look at it from this perspective. Nick Saban, as much as people want to say Nick Saban would have never let that happen, okay, he lost to ULM in his very first year there. Right now, there's a big difference, as in Kalen DeBoer is grabbing the keys to a Ferrari, and what Nick Saban was, a old beat-down truck that didn't run anymore, and he had to get that thing started back. But I can't say that if Saban's on the sideline, that same thing doesn't happen. I will say that looking at Bama lately, it's you're like, ooh, this isn't the most disciplined team. I'm not saying that from offsides or false start penalty from a penalty laden place as much as I am just seeing them be a little bit more free, which prior to the loss, everyone was saying, oh, it's nice to see these kids having fun like this. And then all of a sudden, and this is what happens with discipline, especially in the sport of football, but really across the board in sports, is once you start letting that leash off of discipline, now you're going to see things in crucial moments that you don't like to see. It looks all fun when everything's going good, but then whenever stuff hits the fan, then there's just going to be, and coming from a guy who's been there for 5 years and Malachi Moore there at the end of the game, I can understand that, though. He doesn't know what it's like to lose to Vanderbilt, you know?
He didn't even know that was like physically possible. Like, they allowed this since when?
Yeah. Where's the rest when you need them, man? What is going on here? But really, though, you know, I'm sure that we'll talk about it more at 5 o'clock, and I'm not trying to stop talking about it. Just I want to get some of your thoughts on it. One of the most impressive things to me for that win for Vandy was it wasn't just like it was a couple of fluke plays or anything like that. It was 60 minutes of them dominating, Bama clawing back, and then Vandy answering the bell and then shutting the door. Like Bama didn't beat themselves in this game.
Yeah, I think the thing you kind of respect the most for Clark Lee is how many times we watch a team like in a game they shouldn't, winning a game they shouldn't, and then they start playing not to lose.
Yeah.
Clark Lee never once did that.
Yeah.
He kept like, hey, this is what got us here. And if we lose, fine, we lose. We're Vanderbilt playing Alabama.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't see the same thing with Mark Stoops against Georgia a few weeks back. He kind of learned his lesson, kind of acted more a little bit that way against Ole Miss, that 2 weeks later or a week later, whatever it was. But like so often those and then they blow it because like you're not beating these guys straight up. There's a reason why you were a 4-touchdown underdog or whatever the number was. Like, there's a reason why this is going to be such a huge upset. It's like because nobody expects you to be here. So you're not going to man up and play. You know what I'm saying? Like, just keep your foot on the pedal. Keep doing what got you here. And far too many times we see coaches not do that.
Like Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah. I mean, it happens across the sport all the time. And it ends up typically costing. And then we start talking about the upset that could have been as opposed to the upset that was. And, obviously we saw that twice on Saturday with two huge upsets in the SEC. And, obviously the Bama win gets a little bit more play just because Vanderbilt was probably viewed as worse than Arkansas. And obviously Alabama was viewed as better in Tennessee.
Right.
But I mean, kind of the same thing on both sides. Like both coaches, I got to see a lot more of the Tennessee game than the Bama game. Both coaches kind of stuck to what got them there. They didn't freeze in the moment.
Yeah.
They just like, hey, we're here and we're just going to make it work at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and the Arkansas one was wild as well. It's one of those things. Like, I didn't even get mad when Vanderbilt. Whenever it was all said and done, it was just one of those like, oh, well, all right, here's here's what we're dealing with, and then you have all of the new age Bama fans who don't know what it's like to lose, let alone losing to Vanderbilt, and it's just funny to me people calling already for Kalen DeBoer's job. Like last week, y'all were saying, man, I tell you what, we made the right hire, and then now here we are. It's like, no, Kalen DeBoer's got to get fired.
Yeah.
Off with his head. I don't get it. I love the overreaction that it brings.
Phenomenal to watch from like an outsider perspective.
Yeah.
It's just comical because people are just so dumb sometimes when it comes to sports.
I mean, and I had not even jokingly, what's more embarrassing? I asked this question on Facebook: the season that Florida State is having, or Alabama losing to Vanderbilt? And maybe if we're talking about FSU with one loss, and they, just so happen to pick up another, maybe we could talk about that. But I still feel like Alabama, with the expectations that were set in front of them, especially after the win against Georgia, that makes that one just a little bit more embarrassing than what's going on. I mean, at Florida State, if you're a Florida State fan, what do you have hope for right now? Not trying to take it. It's just like, is it still embarrassing at this point?
See, I think it's easily Florida State season because, like, I mean, this is part of what made Nick Saban the GOAT.
Yeah.
Was how often do you see just the ebbs and flows of, there's always what we call let down games, trap games. You don't really hear that phrase used in professional sports, especially like the NFL, but it happens all the time in college football because you cannot just college kids are going to treat Georgia differently. They're going to treat Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It happens in the Big 12. It happens in the Big 10. It happens in the ACC. So for a one-game letdown, it's very disappointing. But at the end of the day, we know where Bama's ceiling is. It's still there.
Yeah.
Florida State, you came this season coming off a national championship or a national championship type regular season.
Gotcha.
You thought you were going to be there. I understand everything that happened after that. And then and you came in expecting to be the ACC front runner, expecting to be a legit college football playoff contender. Now you're staring at very likely not going bowling. To go from being preseason to the top 10 to, I would bet good amount of money. They don't even come close to bowl eligibility at this point because they're 1-5. Still got to play Miami. That puts them at 1-6. Still got to play Notre Dame.
You never know what could happen in that game, but based off of what we've seen at this point, both of them beat Cal.
Yeah, they've got that in common again. But they've got to play Miami. They've got to play Notre Dame, two teams that arguably they're going to be underdogs to. Florida is all of a sudden not looking quite so much the gimme win they thought they were going to be just based on the teams don't look that much different. Duke on the road before Miami, coming off a Clemson loss, like how are they mentally going into that game? And I mean, you go from a team that legitimately thought they were going to play in the playoffs this year to a team that very likely may not go bowling.
Yeah.
And I mean, and coming off a season where you went 13-0 and then lost the bowl game, which is the way they like to phrase last season, to just be almost, I mean, and they weren't even competitive against Boston College. Like, I mean, they were semi-competitive against Memphis. They weren't competitive against SMU.
Yeah, no, they weren't
so
competitive.
It's not
all
like they're
against
just
SMU.
losing. They've been embarrassing in a lot of their losses, and like
that's a fair point. I'll take it. And I think it's one of those ones where we do this a lot. I would say agree to disagree on certain things. And you make a very valid point. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are on your side of the fence on that one,
for sure.
And then there's others that are on.
I want to be boring.
My side of the fence.
Here, agreed. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on to the next topic, which is about time for us to dive into that. Got a lot to talk about, a lot to really break down. I know that and I want to give you time to talk about Arkansas and Tennessee, and then obviously at the time that Bama was going down to Vanderbilt, Georgia was putting a whooping on the Auburn Tigers, who are off this week. And this is ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for the Auburn Tigers and for the Mosley Dolphins. It's David Hayes, Tyler Bishop, and Caveman Rick, and takes are going to be going up on a Tuesday. Keep it locked in right here to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Tuesday's weather forecast. Mostly sunny the remainder of the day with temps near 87 and a wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze out of the northeast and a temperature of 71. Slightly cooler tomorrow around 79 with some clouds and a wind around 18 miles per hour out of the northeast. Sunny Thursday and quite warm around 80. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rate you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-708-3092. 800-708-3092. 800-708-3092. That's 800-708-3092.
WVLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The mission.
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Save the panhandle from boring cookie-cutter radio. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
The state will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are back. This is the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN in Northwest Florida, your home for Mosley Dolphin football. Big game this coming Friday between the Niceville Eagles and the Mosley Dolphins. Coverage will start right here on ESPN Northwest Florida at 6 o'clock, and the kick will commence at 7 p.m. Kyle Wright should be back on the call with me, and we'll just kind of go through the rest of this week and find out. And if you hear him on the call Friday, that would be phenomenal. If not, well, he's going to get fined then. I'm going to fine him for his whole entire paycheck for that afternoon. But no, it does seem to be trending in the right direction. Now, you were telling me, give you a couple of seconds to pull this up, that we are going to be shortening the windows in the transfer portal for college football. Well, for college sports, college athletics in general, right? Because that's not just...
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know these apply specifically to football. I don't know because of how the other seasons work.
That
how their portal windows work. But so college football, the window for the winter transfer portal has gone from 30 days to 20 days, and the spring portal window is shrinking from 15 to 10 days. So that's just, and for anybody who's not super familiar, that's the time they can enter the portal. They don't necessarily have to be out of the portal or committed to a team in that time frame. But if you do not have your paperwork submitted by the end of that window, you cannot transfer until the next portal window, which wouldn't be the next spring or winter, depending on which.
Yeah, which I think is, and again, that's not them having to pick a school. That is just them notifying the school, hey, I'm going to be hopping into the transfer portal. And I think that's fair, because, I mean, like, typically most of these guys know the second the portal window opens. And, we're already seeing it now, guys already opting out, essentially, for the rest of the season and redshirting for the next portal session. Like, these guys already know. Waiting till the 28th day, you probably knew on the 8th day or the 6th day or the first day that you were probably going to do it. And especially now, I know there's probably NIL bidding and stuff going on. I'll give my current team X amount of days to match the offer I'm getting from whatever school. And it's just, it's ugly what college football has become on some of this stuff. I don't know how I feel about, and let me use this in two different ways. But first, I don't know how I feel about you being able to opt out and still get a redshirt year.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not medically induced. Now, medically, look, what's Cam McCormick, the Methuselah of college football? I'm cool with that. If you can't medically make it through your season, then I'm fine with that. If it's under the guise of experience, if, all right, coach doesn't want to waste your eligibility, so he allows you to play in 4 games, then that's fine. But if you take the onus and you make the decision to get into the transfer portal based on something as playing time, which is just, that's not how it goes down to Alabama. When you're talking about Jaheim Otis, he started multiple games his freshman year, 10 games, I think it was, started 3 games last year underneath Nick Saban. And then you get to this point where injuries, according to Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator, was saying that he's not where any of us would like him to be. So with that being said, you got to put the best on the field. For Bama, I don't mind this because, all right, that's getting a cancer out of the locker room, if you will. But there's other schools where most other schools, he should be staying and playing, So
how often in football do you see, like, you're one injury away from being a significant contributor to a team? And especially, and I hate to say I could get it at a different school, but like at a team like Alabama that is going to be more than likely a significant player throughout the postseason, like, why would you give up on a chance of being a part of that kind of run? Obviously he knows better than we are. Maybe he's not in their plans at all. Maybe this is much more mutual than we're giving it credit for. It's not really fair to him to blame it all on him, but I agree.
I'm not really necessarily coming at Otis as much as I am just this.
I hate the system as a whole.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Like, it's just so ugly to me. It's so disheartening as a fan. Like at least with pro football, there is set contracts. Like, sure, guys can hold out towards the end of that contract, whatever else, they can get cut before those contracts. But, like, it's not yearly free agency with the same guys every single year. And it's just, I hope that we are closer to guidelines than we ever have been with some of this stuff. I don't know that we are. But I would just like some consistency would be great.
I feel like when you commit, unless the head coach leaves, you're committed for 2 full years.
Agreed.
I would love to say 3, but there still is stepping stones. There still is and forever will be the difference in the team, the program, the franchise, and the player, because we're always okay with, well, the team decided to move on, but never okay with, well, the player decided to move on. I hate that it happens in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
That one is just something I can't wrap my head around, especially to why is it just okay? And again, this isn't just on Otis. We saw it at UNLV with Matt Sluka, the quarterback, right? And he's like, well, I didn't get my 100,000 or whatever it was that was promised to me, and now I'm opting out. I don't like seeing these things in the middle of the season. So, like you said, I hope that we're a lot closer to guidelines, and seeing things like this is nice. And then also, I think next year it starts where institutions are going to have $27.1 million to
the revenue sharing.
Yeah, the revenue sharing, and that's going to help all of the other kids who are maybe on. What's the old adage with college baseball? You get 11.7 scholarships. Well, now they're able to pay these kids because it's not just for the football players. Everyone's going to be making a. Do you think it'll work that way?
No.
So that's going to be very interesting as well.
Yeah, football. I mean, so it's whatever the number 27. Whatever $1 million, and that's for every student athlete under the umbrella. So it's not 27 million per team. It's not 27 million.
No, that's for 650 plus students.
But I mean, if we're being honest, what's a conservative number? 80% of that, is probably going to go to the college football or go to the football team. Because if we're being honest, 90% of the money is made by the college or by the football team. So it's not a disproportionate amount. But if we're being honest, I would be surprised if it's any less than 80 to 85% is going to the football team. You may get a stud pitcher or, maybe a big basketball recruit.
Player,
you'll get a couple of those guys and maybe help fortify those teams. But, I mean, a lot of these other programs, the golf teams, the lacrosse teams are probably still going to be getting, fractions of pennies on the dollar, which I'm not saying is wrong, because if we're looking at where the money's coming from, it's economically it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be the huge help for a lot of these other sports that some people may expect. And I think it's fair. I'm just saying, if we're being honest, it's just the way it's going to work out.
Yeah, that's just the way that the cookie is going to crumble. But, man, and who knows what's the next direction? Because now you've got the SEC and the Big Ten seeming to like they're going to play friendly with each other and work on their schedule. And what does that do for the rest of college football now if the SEC and the Big Ten all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to play one game. Each of our teams are going to play one of your teams in a non-conference game each and every year.
Yeah, it's going to. Obviously, it's great for the fans because it creates hopefully some big time matchups.
Yeah,
but now you've got Georgia and Alabama, or Georgia, Florida, Kentucky. A lot of these teams going to play one of these games open and then still having their ACC rivals to end the year. How does it affect some of the other games like that? How does it if now the SEC decides they want to go to 9 conference games? So now you're playing 11 FBS programs before you even get a chance to even think about scheduling a Middle Tennessee State,
because they're going to open up the season with some of those marquee games, and I think those are more beneficial to have the cupcake games, if you will, at the beginning of the year. And I'm not a big fan of Week 11 watching Mercer and Alabama. I get it, it's a tune-up, but we're past the middle season point, the middle of the season at that point. Let's play real football games down the stretch.
So it's going to be interesting to see how. And then I know a lot of people hate those games, but people don't often realize how much those institutions rely on those big paychecks. And occasionally we do see a great upset like Northern Illinois over Notre Dame or whatever. Those programs need the money, but also we get an Appalachian State out of Michigan out of it. We get some of these all-time historic upsets, and some of those games are what make college football. And if we lose those, it's just going to slowly become more and more of a minor league with less of the passion that we kind of grew up with in college football.
And it's hard to say that we're seeing that. I think we see it whenever we get to bowl season or whenever we have these opt-outs. Obviously, there has to be some sort of a lack of passion of your pursuit of the sport of football, But when you're in the middle of those games, and I think Alabama and Georgia the last weekend was the epitome of that, you can definitely tell that the fan bases haven't lost any of their passion, and it seems like it means a lot to those kids. And just like the same way for Vanderbilt and Alabama, what that meant for the students who were there at the game, Oh, my goodness. And especially to hear right after you end up winning that game, Nick Saban over the speakers basically saying...
it's the one play. Well, then even for Vanderbilt, like then Tennessee going on to lose, like that's I mean, obviously it's probably not maybe it is a much more heated rivalry than I give it credit for, at least on the Vanderbilt side. Yeah. But there's got to be a little bit like, we beat Bama and y'all lost to Arkansas. Like, we own the state for at least the next 7 days and go from there. But but like I said, we still see those moments. So, college football isn't dead. But, man, it's just I feel like they keep doing stuff to kind of contribute to the slow and painful death. Yeah, I don't know if it'll die, but dying as we know it. Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, it's obviously 100% changed in the last 8-10 years, and it will continue to change. And just hope for the best because nobody's asking my opinion on it. But it's also one of those evolutions of the fan base or of the way that. The changing of the guards of the type of fans, the older people who aren't, now they're kind of losing their love for it, but those aren't the people that they're not trying to dig into your wallet. They're not even advertising for you. You know what I mean? They're advertising for the young kids and the few. Exactly. So they do have to keep that on, in the back of their minds. And now with NIL being a legitimate thing at the high school level in some states is, I think, and I will never understand why didn't we get this figured out at the collegiate level before we started saying, you know what, this seems like a great idea. Let's bring it to kids who aren't even 18 years old.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we went from not having a college playoff to having 2 teams, to having 4 teams, to now you got 12 and they don't even want to try out 12 before they want to bump it up to 14. Yeah. So you surprised? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This is par for the course on what they do. I'm surprised that the high school levels, the FHSAA, the MA, whatever state, insert state there, that the high school athletic associations were just so apt to do this. We're ready to do this. Politicians and insert people getting money and kickbacks, and then there's your answer: follow the money. People are getting paid, and that's where people are gonna, lean towards. And part of it is like the major universities, like Georgia. Like it benefits Georgia for the high schools to be able to, for NIL to start when it comes to the recruiting side of it. Yeah. Florida, Missouri is one of the first states with very good high school NIL laws, and so that helped them land a few recruits. So at a certain point, it became like it was an extension of the college game by allowing the in-state schools to at least help the in-state players and, go from there. And I'm glad for the players. Don't get me wrong. Don't ever get me wrong on that, because I think that is huge, especially for some of the ones who come from families who, just they weren't able to they basically put all their resources into getting their kid to college based on his athletic ability. And so I don't hate that. Obviously I think the thing that we go back to is just what it's done to the sport, making everyone feel entitled if we didn't do that enough just in general as Americans. Right. But they should still make it to where if you're getting a scholarship, any of that NIL money goes to pay for that too. You know what I mean? If you're getting paid like a bunch of money, you can pay for your own ride. I think there has to be a percentage in place, right? What if your NIL is you make maybe $2,000-$3,000 and you're already paying taxes on that? When you get NIL money, you're paying taxes. Or make it to a certain amount. But I'm just saying these kids that are getting the full ride, plus they're making like, a few $1 million on top of that. Yeah, if you're making if you're making a few million, then revoke that scholarship and give it to a basketball player or to another football player. You know how they always have those ceremonies where the walk-on guy is getting the scholarship. Yeah, 100%. I think that could also be something where sometimes you just got those legit team players who step up and say, hey, I'm not going to, or I'm going to take my money and pay for my schooling. But then again, a lot of these guys are being represented by agents, and agents want their cut, so they don't want anything getting into their cut of that cut. So it's a business. That's a wild. I mean, it has been, but it's just getting it's just spiraled for the last. Now it's legal. Now it's legal. Oh, give them all the death penalty and let's just start all over again. Hit them all with the SMU, and then we'll just start all over again as the Mets have now taken a 2-0 lead over the Phillies in the bottom of the fourth with 2 outs. Obviously, the biggest, to quote Mama Boucher, foosball is the devil. That's from Chef Ross. The biggest upset was bar none, and you talked about Arkansas and Tennessee, but Vanderbilt over Alabama. That's the biggest upset. What
besides the obvious, though, and since you've talked about Arkansas, Tennessee, what's another one out there? What was it on a weekend full of upsets? What was another one that stood out to you?
I mean, I think one of the biggest ones, it wasn't, I don't know if it was technically an upset based on like Vegas, but I think the way Missouri was completely impotent against A&M.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Missouri was a team, again, that kind of came in, top 10, had legitimate playoff hopes, didn't look great against Boston College, went to the wire in overtime against Vandy, which obviously looks a little bit better, now that Vandy beat Bama.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it was 41-10?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Drink kicked a field goal late in that game to make it 10 instead of 40. Like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody care that you lost by 31 instead of 34? No. Nobody's going to look back and be like, oh, they lost. They scored 10 points, so more power to, like, it was such a silly thing to do.
Such a beatdown, too, though,
from start to finish. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those. Like, it wasn't highly competitive for a lot of that game. And, you've got Elko coming in as a first-year guy, whole new staff, a lot of whatever turnover. And then they came in, and Drink was kind of a weird commodity for a lot of people as like maybe the backup plan at Florida if Lane Kiffin doesn't fall through because of last year, forgetting that he was on the hot seat going into last year. But it's not been a great follow-up season for a guy kind of maybe hoping to kind of solidify his status in the coaching tier or maybe kind of trying to build his resume for either a bigger job or a bigger payday. Like, you can't have losses like that if you're hoping to establish yourself as one of the better coaches in college football.
And especially in the Southeastern Conference, right?
And against a team like A&M, like, they have those Big 12 ties. I think they probably have some like Southwest Conference, Big 8. I don't know the full history of the 60s and 50s for that, but I mean, those are not two schools that are. It's not like. I think it's a little bit different if they lose to like South Carolina or Tennessee with the same level of prestige. But like A&M, they've got enough history with them that probably stings a little bit worse for Missouri fans, especially the older Missouri fans with the money.
Yeah. And all of the hype, which LSU Jeff called in yesterday, and he was like, he's been calling that from the beginning that they were overhyped. And I think we were in a position this year where we were wrong on Missouri last year. Right?
Yeah.
And then, so this year.
Overcorrected a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. I know I did for sure. Yeah. Do you think that Drink survives? Like, is he the coach over there at Missouri next year?
Oh, the wheels would have to completely fall off.
Okay.
I think he's pretty safe. And part of the reason why I liked them this year was I thought they had a fairly manageable schedule. Obviously, A&M's a little bit tougher.
Right.
But, outside of Bama and A&M, I think their third toughest game is Oklahoma, which, again, Oklahoma has had their moments of goodness and moments of oh my goodness, the other way. So, they still could legitimately end up 10-2, 9-3, and that's not a bad year for Missouri football. So I think, I'm not going to throw dirt on his grave too quickly, but if they drop one or two more that they probably shouldn't, and then a team like Bama, and then a team like Oklahoma, and all of a sudden they're staring like 8-4, 7-5 in the face, his seat's maybe a little bit warmer than most would have expected going into next year than we would have thought to start the season.
SMU ended up taking down Louisville 34-27. Is that a team? We've seen them with some high offensive outputs. Now you see them in a game where Louisville kept on threatening, in fact took the lead, and then SMU battles right back. Is SMU a team that you think could possibly rival Miami to win the ACC this year?
I'm not sure they're going to have the guys along the line of scrimmage to take out Clemson or Miami. I don't know if they play either one of them in season, and I don't think they do. I can see Clemson's schedule. They don't play them. I don't think they play Miami in the regular season, so that could make some tiebreakers interesting.
They've got Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and California left. There's a reason why I had this team going 11-1.
We both were fairly high on SMU kind of coming in and making some noise. And, it's going to create a really interesting round, tiebreaker determination going on in the ACC as we get a little bit closer. Obviously, the odds of all these teams winning out is probably slim. I don't know if they have the dudes along the line of scrimmage against Clemson, against Miami, but I think they're a fun team, and they were a team that had two quarterbacks to start the season, so they had none type situation. It seems like they've kind of settled on a quarterback, and the offense has started to progress going on since they've done that.
Give me a team, it doesn't have to be upset, just a team that you were most surprised came out on top. Most surprising win of Week 6 this last college football weekend.
For a team that we haven't really talked about yet, Minnesota. Beating USC. I don't think beating Lincoln Riley comes as a huge surprise, but I still think there's a name and prestige there with USC and Lincoln Riley. And And to lose to Minnesota. I mean, it's not like Minnesota's been a team that's been terrorizing the Big Ten big guys for as long as PJ Fleck's been there. You know, they've had one or two nice games, but they've never really taken that next step that I think some people were hoping for when he came from Western Michigan. And it's just like when that kind of scrolls across from like Minnesota beat USC.
Yeah.
Like, really,
it's one of those ones where you feel like it's non-conference off rip, right? It's kind of like Clemson and Stanford last week, where I'm like, oh man, that's kind of a fun non-conference game. I'm like, that's a conference game. And then you see this USC Minnesota. I honestly do wonder how long. Like, can this last 10 years?
The conferences
be realigned like this.
I think
they change too fast, like everything in college football. You know, give it a couple of years and they'll want to realign.
I think there's going to have to end it with some more common sense. Scheduling on some of this stuff, and I think we'll see it for 3 years, and I think the athletic department will be like, guys, we got to figure something out. Like, whether it's a super league and then they kind of diverge into more regional sub conferences of the Big Ten and of the SEC, and kind of becomes like an NFC, AFC, and then you have the East, West, South, North type deal. I think that's kind of where we're headed to long term. How quickly that happens, I think the traveling and Cal playing Miami at 10:30 Eastern time, and that game going into 2:00 in the morning, whatever it was. I just don't see that sustainable long term.
It's one thing for that to be a every now and again type situation, but when you know that almost essentially if you're in the ACC, you're going to have one, maybe two games that are out west, and you're going to have to stay up because for them, 9:30 to us is 7:30 to
that's
them.
prime time there.
Yeah. So, and that's just how it's going to go. And I think that is something that has to factor in, right? Is the East Coast, how are those fans reacting to what time these games are on and what time they're going to as well? Because we've been told, we're speeding up the clock of the game, and 2-minute timeout and all of that. And it's like, but nothing has changed. Yeah. I feel like they've gotten long or something. And that is I feel like that's a big turnoff, especially with, we get advertising shoved down our face, or shoved in our face all the time. And now you sit here and you just want to, like, yes, you need commercials. We need breaks. We need bathroom breaks. We need to be able to go get some sweet tea and all that good stuff. But I don't want to sit there and watch a commercial set for 4.5 minutes long.
Or what gets me is they'll go to like a 3.5 minute commercial with like 13 seconds left in the quarter, kick off, and then go back. It's like, come on, like use a little bit of, and I know it's all about the money, and my opinion, like I said, nobody cares about my opinion. But it's just so frustrating as a fan. Like, use a little bit of common, and honestly, decency. Like, don't subject the fans to 10 minutes of commercial to watch a 13-second play. Like, it's just, I hate it.
Care about your fans just a little bit. We're just standing over here on our soapbox on a Tuesday, throwing up some takes. It's Tyler Bishop, Caveman Rick, and David Hayes. We're the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, the official station of the Auburn Tigers. When we get back, we're going to keep it rolling here with Tyler's takes, and if you guys got anything for him, 850-215-6290.
You're home for the NFL. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Coming up this week on Thursday Night Football, it's Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks.
Purdy loading up there, and it's picked off!
Thursday Night Football coverage starts at 6:30, kickoff at 7:15 on your home for the NFL on the Gulf Coast. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, some clouds and a low of 72 with a gentle breeze coming out of the east-northeast around 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, mostly clouds and a temp near 79. In the afternoon and evening, a wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 81. For Thursday, sunshine and a high of 81. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hewitt Tire and Auto and Hometown Towing is a combination that's hard to beat. With years and years of experience in vehicle repair, foreign and domestic, name brand tires, and fair prices have established Hewitt Tire and Auto as a leader that folks can call on again and again. And if you need a tow, call Hometown Towing at 850-265-1562. Hewitt Tire and Auto and Hometown Towing, an unbeatable combination. Airport Road, Panama City.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on the Sports Talk Monster.
You're gonna be mine! Woo!
ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're back in the doghouse, riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick, and you're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for Mosley Dolphin football. They've got a big one this Friday at Tommy Oliver Stadium, and I'm encouraging you all to go to Tommy Oliver Stadium this Friday. Get there early. It's going to be packed out. Niceville travels well. If you want to experience Bay County football in a way that maybe it's been, maybe you've never experienced Bay County football at a high like this, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, obviously, if you have a athlete playing elsewhere, I would highly encourage you to go watch your kid. But if you just want to come watch some great football between Niceville and Mosley, pack out Tommy Oliver Stadium. The game is going to be starting at 7 p.m. All right, we've got a lot of big games to get to. We haven't even made your picks yet. We can do that live on the air in the final segment. We'll try to do that. Is there anything else from Week 6 that you don't want to get out of here without talking about? We talked about Arkansas and Tennessee some. Is your thoughts on the Georgia-Auburn game?
So, I was there. You know, that was always a good weekend going up to Athens. Went through Bishop, Georgia, which is actually named after my great-great-uncle. And so it's always cool getting back up there. But from like a fan perspective, I had to go back and watch the game. Like, the game felt boring. You know, it just there was not a whole lot of explosives from either side. There wasn't, a whole lot of game-breaking plays. So I understand fans watching and just being like, and it was kind of just a very methodical, like 31-13 win. At no point did Auburn really ever feel like they were going to win. And it's kind of funny because I used to be one of the closest rivalries in all of football. You know, it was 52-8 over like 110 meetings or whatever it was. And now it's just become so one-sided that we've dominated Auburn so much. It's almost become expected. And I think for a lot of the younger fans, they don't kind of appreciate the rivalry the way some of the other fans do. But it was just one of those very Kirby methodical wins. The offense scored on 5-8 possessions. There's only one really bad drive, I thought, by the offense there. And I'm just hoping that we saw some explosion towards the end of the Bama game. Saw a little bit of that hit or miss against Auburn. Just hoping that Georgia used the Mississippi State game this weekend to kind of get some things right, because going into Austin, that's not going to be an easy game, playing on the road at night against a very good team in Texas, and see what this Georgia team is really made of and if they're actually going to be a title contender or not.
Georgia being a title contender?
Or not?
I think they are. I would say that. Do you think that any team in the Power 5, Power 4, rather, finishes this season undefeated? I think if we see Ohio State go down this weekend, I
think there's a good chance the winner of this weekend does.
The winner of this weekend does?
Ohio. I mean, if you're not including the Big Ten championship game, I mean, Oregon's schedule is probably
just regular season, just 12-0.
Washington's schedule, Oregon and Ohio State both have to play Michigan, which could be iffy for them. But and if Texas beats Georgia this weekend, I mean, their schedule after that point is fairly easy. I mean, I know they got to go play at Vandy. They got to go play at Arkansas. That game's
this weekend, Texas, Georgia?
No, it's 2 weeks now.
Okay.
They got the Red River rivalry this week. But if they get by the next 2 weeks, I mean, they got to go to A&M to end the season. I think we do, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me just with some of the upsets and the way we've seen some teams playing on the road, and some near upsets that we've seen throughout the season. Like it could maybe end up like that 2007 season where there's not truly one team that ever really truly separates, and the ending is kind of chaotic and a lot of fun.
I was about to say, isn't that great for college football? Like, doesn't it need a year like that, especially to start off the college football playoff? The more craziness that you see, man, I'm sitting here looking at it's like March Madness, the first 4 in, first 4 out type stuff. It's just wild right now. So they have it projected as the top 4 seeds being Texas Longhorns, Ohio State Buckeyes, Miami Hurricanes, and then BYU by way of winning the Big 12. Then your 5-12 matchup, and I don't know if this bodes well for the Crimson Tide, what does bode well is if you're 5, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8. You're hosting a college football playoff game, and the revenue that's going to come from that. And I know that for most of us fans, that's irrelevant, but it's going to be one of those things. I don't think that it happens this year, but I think that this could be something you have to monitor in the future, because could teams slip? We'll lose to a Vanderbilt here, you know what I mean? In order to be able to ensure that we're going to host that, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what happens in the regular season to this extent right here. That if you're in the SEC championship game, basically, or SEC and Big Ten, if you're in that game, because it's not divisional or anything like that these days, it's just the top 2 seeds, you're going to be in the college football playoff. Unless it's just a crazy odd year.
Probably like a 95% chance.
Yeah. And so the winner will get the bye, and then the loser gets to host a game. I just think that could be something to monitor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an argument, like, if you're kind of right there on the fringe, like, you'd rather not play in the conference championship game. And if you're not going to win the conference championship, you'd rather not play in it, because why play the extra game if you don't have to?
Yeah.
But and that's why I think Notre Dame actually is in a solid situation, because they will get that bye week conference championship game weekend. Then they get to turn around, and if they were to be able to host one, I'm not saying this year in particular, right? Just as an in generality thing, like, if they can not play a conference championship game weekend, that's a bye week, and they get to host a game. That's not the worst way to go into the playoffs, as you're trying to hope to build momentum and everything else.
So the 5-12 matchup, they have Boise State being the G5 school, the 12th seed, with the possible. I mean, unless he gets injured, Gency's winning the Heisman, right?
I would like to believe so.
I mean, Travis Hunter playing both ways.
If he keeps producing like he is, he should.
This might be one of the most unique. I would go back to maybe like Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Heisman type race. This might go down, and it'll be even more so weird, because you're talking about Boise State, who's going to be fighting for a final spot in the college football playoff, depending on how the rest of their season goes. They took a 3-point loss to Oregon, and I think they've only got that one loss.
Yeah, that's their lone loss so far.
Lone loss, and Oregon, first 2 weeks of the season, we're like, what is this? Like, what are they bringing to the table? What happened, Dan Lanning? But now that Dylan Gabriel started to settle in, those ducks are quacking a whole lot more. So Boise State, Alabama. And I don't know if that's good for Alabama, the way that Vanderbilt was running the ball. Then the 9-8 game. This will be fun, but I do have something to say really about the next two. So we'll go over the next two. Oregon Ducks at Penn State, which will be fun. I don't think that we see that in the regular season, right? Oregon doesn't play Penn State. Nope. But if the committee's going to do any type of finagling with it, let's try to not have conference matchups.
I think they'll do their best to not rematches or conference matchups. I think they'll do their best to avoid it. Within reason. Yeah.
Within reason. I think that, because if you're talking about the difference in 8, 9, and 11 and 10, right? Is there really that big of a difference in those three numbers?
Just one.
And one is the loneliest number. The next matchup would be Ole Miss coming in as the 11 seed, taking on Georgia as the number 6 seed. So we're looking at 3 Big Ten teams, 4 SEC schools until you get to the next school, Clemson and Tennessee. So they've got 5 SEC teams projected to make the college football playoff.
See, that'd be interesting, because Ole Miss, in Georgia they play. So that's, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to flip the Penn State or the Penn State Ole Miss rankings at that point to avoid too much of a rematch and everything else. But long season left to go.
Oh, 100%. And Clemson and Tennessee, that was a bowl game last year, right?
Like 2 years ago. Okay. I think it was the year it was 2022 is when Hendon Hooker got hurt. Joe Milton came played fairly well in the bowl game, and Tennessee ended up beating Clemson that year.
As it stands right now, the first 4 out, according to this article on ESPN, is the LSU Tigers. Their best win to this point is at South Carolina. They won 36-33. That was a very entertaining game. Their toughest remaining game is going to be November 9th versus Alabama. The next team out, Notre Dame and the Fighting Irish. Their best win, Texas A&M, to open up the season 23-13. Their toughest remaining game is November 30th when they're on the road taking on the Trojans of USC. Iowa State, undefeated at this point, Iowa State. I know it's the Big 12. They've got BYU winning the Big 12, and I believe I only saw only one Big 12 team in their projection getting into the college football playoff, and that was BYU, the champion, who's having themselves a heck of a season as well, handing SMU their lone loss of the season. Iowa State's best win was against Iowa 20-19, and their toughest remaining game is this Saturday against West Virginia. That's the toughest remaining game on your schedule, and why don't we think that they're going to get into the playoff then if that's their toughest one? Now, West Virginia is kind of like Iowa State in the fact that they don't move when you poke them. They upset whenever you least expect them to upset. So maybe there could be some writing on the wall there. But what do you think about Iowa State's chances?
I mean, it's interesting that they put West Virginia as their toughest schedule or game remaining. I think it's going to say more about the quality or the perceived quality of the Big 12 than more so Iowa State. But Iowa State's got to close the season at Utah and hosting Kansas State. So the fact they put at West Virginia as their toughest game remaining is a little interesting to me. But, I mean, and Iowa State, unfortunately, is probably one of those programs that can't afford more than one loss if they want even a legit chance of getting in, just if we're being honest with the perception of the Big 12. And, I mean, just the fact that it's Iowa State.
Indiana comes in next, 6-0. Their best win against Maryland just this, I guess 2 weeks ago, September 28th, 42-28. Yeah. Their toughest remaining game, though, as we were talking about their schedule earlier with Max Delyden, is November 23rd when they're on the road taking on Ohio State. I mean, could you just imagine what's a bigger upset? Indiana in a big-time game against Ohio State. Yes, they're going to be ranked and all that good stuff, but let's say that they're 9-0 going into that game, 9-0, 10-0, whatever they would be. They're undefeated. Ohio State's undefeated, and let's say Indiana beats them 40-35. We'll just use a random score.
No, random score, not related to anything. At that point, it would probably
still be Vandy, right?
It would probably Vandy lost to Georgia State.
Yeah.
They lost to
Missouri.
I mean, they lost Missouri, which not that bad but I mean, they lost to Georgia State. At that point, Indiana.
They were on the road. They were
playing at Ted Turner Field. I mean, at that point, they're like, Indiana would be considered probably, undefeated up to that point more than likely and everything else. I mean, maybe you should argue Ohio State should have taken it more seriously because it would be a bigger ranked game, but Vandy lost to Georgia State.
There it is. See, that's another point for Alabama losing to Vanderbilt be more embarrassing than Florida State and Norvell with 5 L's in his last name.
Hey, man. So, real quick on that, though, the coaches over the last 12 games, this is their record. Sonny Dykes 5-7, which, okay. Hugh Freeze 5-7. Billy Napier.
And Sonny Dykes, real quick, he was at TCU.
He's been at TCU the whole
So he
time.
was at SMU and then
went to TCU and they had the magical run. And so he's been 5-7 his last game. Hugh Freeze 5-7 the last 12. Billy Napier 5-7 the last 12. Sam Pittman 5-7 the last 12. And Lincoln Riley 5-7 the last 12. And then Mike Norvell 6-6 the last 12.
Hey, there you go. Way to go, Coach Norvell. Which of those on that list is the most surprising to you?
Only one of them had a Heisman quarterback. Only one of them played the Pac-12. I mean, and the Pac-12 was the best it had probably ever been last year, so that's a little bit. But, Billy Napier's on the hot seat. Nobody's expected him, and so was Sam Pittman going into the season. I think those are two coaches that everybody expected to not be coaching where they were next year.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze is probably disappointing because of how many losses they've already taken this year. I think if you had told most Auburn fans that they'd be 2-4 halfway through the season, they'd be not very pleased. But I think it goes back to Lincoln Riley had Caleb Williams for the third year of his tenure at that point. I think it's got to be Lincoln Riley. But, man, Hugh Freeze, they've got to be one of the most disappointing teams so far this year, for me personally.
Do you think that for the Auburn Tigers, there's been remorse in that hire?
There's got to be at this point. I mean, not only are they 2-4, but they played their first 5 games at home. And they had a 2-3 record out of those first 5.
And they had opportunities in 2 of those games, really, to win.
They could be really. They could have easily been, not easily, but they could have definitely
3-3, 4-2.
They could have been 5-0 going into that game.
Okay.
I mean, the pick 6 against Oklahoma was a terrible way to lose that game. They lost by 7 against Cal when they threw 4 interceptions. Arkansas, I think, ended up beating them by double digits, but that was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. And again, all those, they weren't blown out. They weren't run off the field in any of those games. But, the Georgia game, like I said, they never truly looked like they were ever threatening to win that game, if we're being perfectly honest. But, they could have easily been 5-0 going into that game instead of 2-3. And then now you're playing on the road against Missouri and Kentucky and Bama, and you've got got A&M and big old Vandy coming to the house,
big old Vandy, boy.
But it's looking bleak for them to be bowl eligible, and I don't think anybody would have expected that year 2 going into Hugh Freeze, and if it's not Hugh Freeze, then who is it for Auburn?
Yeah, man. And for me, I think that there was so much excitement when they did hire him that it was like, all right, well, you got to wait till he gets his quarterback because it can't be Peyton Thorne. We know better than that from what we saw of him at Michigan State. And that's why I was really figuring that he was just going to kind of hand the reins over to Hank Brown in preparation for next year. Is it odd to you that he's gone back to Peyton Thorne?
I think that just shows how bad Hank Brown is, or both. I mean, I think it's obvious that neither of those quarterbacks either fit his system well or understand his system or just can't perform in his system for whatever reason. And I think he's just trusting the experience of Thorne to not make the most critical mistakes, even though we've seen him do that. Yeah. So that's kind of a bold. But I mean, I was talking with an Auburn fan about this the other day. Like, yeah, how could you go in here with Peyton Thorne as your quarterback? But I mean, outside of Cam Ward, who would have been a quarterback on the market that would have like really changed the program, that would have chosen you over the school they went to? Like Howard's going to go to Ohio State over Auburn. Gabriel's going to Oregon over Auburn. What other quarterback out there would have really been like, oh man, this guy would have blown it up at Florida at Auburn?
Yeah,
there wasn't. And so you just trust the guy who's been in your system now for over a year. And I mean, obviously they can't. But
is the days of developing a quarterback is that behind us, or are we getting?
I think that was true. I think
getting ahead of it, I guess.
I think it's going to determine the better teams on the guys who can actually develop their own quarterback as opposed to. I mean, we've seen it with Norvell, right? He was able to kind of bring Travis along because Travis was there. Now he had to go get a 1-year plug and play guy, and it didn't work.
Yeah,
we've seen it with Miami before this year, getting the 1-year plug and play guy.
They've been doing that for what, 4 or 5 years now.
But I think that would really typically, and it probably always has, but you're not going to get 3 or 4 years to develop 2 or 3 guys. You're going to get 1 or 2 years to develop 1 or 2 guys. And the team that can most successfully navigate the quarterback development part of it was, I mean, that may be a very obvious thing to say, but I think that's going to, maybe more so than ever, with how easy it is for guys to change teams, the guys who can actually develop a quarterback and convince even a backup to stick around for an extra year is going to be huge going forward.
Hey, sometimes glass doors are obvious as they get, and you still got to walk into them things, don't you?
Yeah.
Every now and again.
I think it's a lot of on the job training now, not developing quarterbacks, and it's all going to be like during games and like, you know what I mean?
And that's why I think his point bodes well, because I think that's that's going to be your separating factor is the team who can get guys to stick with them. You stick with us for 3 years, and year 1 you're probably not going to be the starting quarterback, but by year 3 you're going to be running this offense. Now this could go one of 2 ways, where all right, third year you're running this offense and you're running it well. With a 4th year, now you can improve your draft stock, or for some of those guys, they might just be incredibly talented and are able to raise their draft stock tremendously to a level to get to the NFL, which is, I mean, you start out playing for the love of the game, but there's always, if you're really good at football, there's always that in the back of your mind of getting to the next level, the ultimate dream if you're a football player. And this is the Afternoon Underdogs. When we get back, Tyler's going to be making his picks, and we'll go over Max's picks. Max is in the lead, and you're in second place in our pick 'em. It's highly competitive right now. We might go over those if we have time when we return. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Keep it locked in.
Weather in the Panhandle never stops. Turn to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast.
We're up to the minute weather reports all day long.
A chance of thunderstorms and moderate rain.
In-depth storm coverage.
Hurricane Helene.
And breaking weather as it happens.
We do have a tropical storm warning.
ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, some clouds and a low of 72 with a gentle breeze coming out of the east-northeast around 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, mostly clouds and a temp near 79. In the afternoon and evening, a wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 81. For Thursday, sunshine and a high of 81. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Take
Take your next adventure in an award-winning Kia from Bill Bird Kia. We invite you to stop by Bill Bird Kia today and test drive a new 2024 Kia. You'll see why everyone is talking about Kia. The 2024 Kia will give you the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. The SUV family has movement that inspires. Drive away today in a new 2024 Kia Soul, Seltos, Sportage, Sorento, or Telluride. Fuel the thrill and command the road in a luxury sedan from Bill Bird Kia. Drive away today in a new 2024 Kia K5. Performance, power, and design built just for you. Discover the new Kia at Bill Bird Kia. Bill Bird Kia, the original home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by 2435 East 15th Street, Panama City, or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. We'll treat you just like family and give you the peace of mind you can trust. Your local community dealer is Bill Bird Kia.
The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty.
It's go time all the time. Sports talk around the clock.
Oh my gosh!
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's our final segment of the afternoon. You're tuned in to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, the official station of the Auburn Tigers. And this Thursday, we have a little NFL football for you. Coverage starting at 6:30 for a 7:15 kick. It's going to be the 49ers and the Seahawks, a little NFC West divisional game there. The New York Mets are still up on top of the Phillies right now, 2-0 in the bottom of the sixth.
Boo.
Nola's still going, though. It's been looking pretty good. The home run to
Two home
Fuller
runs.
Pete? Oh, both of them to Pete Alonso?
No. Pete Alonso and who was the other one? What's his face? Winker, yeah. Winker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to dive into our pick'em here. This is, again, the final segment of this Tuesday afternoon. Can you hand me Max's picks so I can announce those as we go through here as well?
Didn't even have the decency to turn them in.
Yeah, I know, right? He just expects me to do all the work, which, again, thank you. Last week, you did the pick'em sheet for us, and that was nice to kind of, I almost texted you this week and was like, hey, you want to just do the same thing? But I had a little bit more time because last week it was having to manually edit the log. So during football season, there's not as much prep as, nowhere near, actually, because it's like if I don't have time to prep, it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I can navigate us for 2 hours to talk about sports, especially when you got a great cast of cohorts around you that love sports as much as you do. All right, let's dive into it. I believe you went 11-4, which was one of the best records last week. I think Morgan actually had the best record at 12-3 overall last week, and one of those was a spread loss because she had Miami, but most of us had Miami taking down Cal, but Cal was able to. Any issue with the officiating for you in that game? I didn't. I got to be frank, I was not up watching that.
I didn't. I watched till about halftime of that game, and I think it was like 21-10 at that point. And you just hate that for 2 weeks in a row now Miami had, I'm not going to say won the game on controversial calls, but it just starts to get to a point like where it just, you hate the optics of it, whether it's, obviously I don't think there's any sort of fixing or anything going on. It's just at a certain point, it's like, hate when one call like that kind of determines the outcome of the game.
Yeah, it's tough, man, but it's the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Hurricanes, right? Just
win, baby.
Just win. All right, Friday, we're going to keep the consistency going. We could be picking a game every single night because it's 55 days straight of college football, which I think we're on our third day of that or so. Yeah. So 52 more days straight of college football, or not college football, football in general. Friday, though, you've got number 16 Utah at Arizona State. Arizona State's a 6.5-point dog, and the total sitting at 45.5. I think this is late on Friday night, like 9:30.
Yeah, probably because if it's at Arizona State. I typically like home games or home teams on Friday nights, but give me the Utes.
UNLV let us down, man. It was overtime.
I picked against UNLV.
Yeah,
I picked
you went Syracuse.
I had to pick my boy Fran Brown. So, and again, the home teams on Friday nights ain't been panning out for me. So, got to change it up, you know.
Max is going to be taking the Utes as well in this game. Then we'll go to South Carolina at number 7, Alabama. Alabama looking to bounce back, but we are using the spread in this game, and it's 20.5. The actual spread's 21. So I just did ourselves a favor and dropped it to 21 or 20.5. Total sitting at 50.5.
I'm going to take South Carolina in the points. I think this is like a noon kickoff, which is typically not the most energetic time to play. I'll either be completely dead wrong or I'll be proven very either Bama's going to come out like a rabid dog,
like first half against Georgia.
Yeah, either it's going to be like 45-0 at the half, or it's going to be 10-7 at the half, and it's going to be a very not fun game for Bama fans to watch. I don't think they'll lose. But,
2 weeks in a row is way too much.
Noon kickoffs. I'm going to take South Carolina in 3 touchdowns.
All right, we'll go to the Red River rivalry shootout here at the Fair. Number 1 Texas at number 18 Oklahoma. Now, we're used to seeing this game being played at 11 a.m. or noon if you're in Central Time Zone, but this is going to be a 2:30 kickoff here for the SEC version of the Red River rivalry shootout. Oklahoma, again, we're using the spread here. Oklahoma's getting 14.5. They're the home team for this neutral site game. The total sitting at 49.5. Max went with Alabama in the prior game, and he's going to take Texas covering 14.5 in this game.
I'm going to take Oklahoma. I think Venables will come up with a decent enough plan. I think they'll play a lot of ball control offense. I think Michael Hawkins Jr. will probably end up with like 15, 18 carries, and like I said, just try to be methodical with it and do enough to not lose. I don't think they win, but do enough to not lose by over 2 touchdowns.
I don't know if it's been announced. I would assume that it's going to be Ewers, but Ewers or Manning?
I'm assuming probably Ewers because I don't think you want his first game back against Georgia.
Yeah, that's a real good point right there. Up to the Big Ten we go. Number 4, Penn State is on the road taking on USC. USC is a 5.5-point dog here, and the total also sitting at 50.5. And Max is going to be going with those Nittany Lions.
These are 2 coaches I would not love to bet on in any sort of game that matters, but I guess I'll go with Franklin, the lesser of 2 evils, basically.
There you go. Florida at Tennessee, our third and final spread game, or game that we're going to be utilizing the spread here on the Pick'em. Florida is on the road taking on number 8 Tennessee. Tennessee, a 15.5-point favorite, and the total sitting at 55.5. Max is going to take the Volunteers.
I'm taking Florida. I think Florida's going to see a lot of things on tape that Arkansas was able to do that they could do similarly. I know Tennessee being at home makes it a little tougher, but if they can just, again, play keep away. And I think that's a trend you'll see with underdogs going forward, is milking the new clock rules and just giving themselves a puncher's chance at the end. And I don't think they win, but I think they can keep within 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, there you go. I like that take because that's kind of where my head is at on all of these spread games. You're like, these are a little astronomical. Maybe the Bama South Carolina one, I get that one a little bit more, but still, that's a tough pick to make. I can't sit here and say Bama's definitely going to win by 21 points. Like, no, I can't say that. And they're not historically known for covering spreads either. They're kind of known for letting teams hang within that spread line. I don't know if maybe that's you can credit some of Nick Saban's success to his relationship with Las Vegas. I'm just joking. Arizona at BYU. BYU a 4.5-point favorite. Total sitting at 49.5. Delight, and the wild card is going to take BYU and the Cougars. I almost called them the Wildcats.
Yeah, the Cougars. Yeah. BYU always seems to drop a game they probably shouldn't. Maybe it's this week, but BYU at the house, they typically tend to play pretty well, so give me the Cougs.
All right, we'll move on to, I would say, the biggest game of the weekend here. Ohio State, number 2, traveling to Oregon to take on the number 3 team in the land. Oregon is a 3-point dog here, and the total sitting at 53.5.
Neither team has really been tested this year. They both had fairly easy schedules leading up to this point. Oregon's had a few close calls, but no team that's really been their equal. So I think we've seen home field advantage or playing on the road hurt a lot of teams this year. We saw Georgia against Bama. We saw Bama against Vandy. We saw Tennessee against Oklahoma, Tennessee against Arkansas. So I'm going to take Oregon at home.
Max is doing the same thing. Then we'll go to another big game, a revenge game for LSU, a keep it rolling game for Ole Miss. Ole Miss comes in ranked number 9, LSU number 13. This game is under the lights in Death Valley. LSU's a 3.5-point dog, or tiger, if you will, and the total sitting at 63.5. Max is going to take Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Max.
I'll take Ole Miss. I feel like I haven't heard about LSU since the South Carolina game. I have no idea what they've been doing with their lives over there. That's either good or for better.
But they were off last week, so that makes sense. But, and then I'm trying to think of who they were playing.
Maybe Mississippi State. I don't know. But I just feel like I haven't heard about them since the South Carolina game, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. So I'll take Ole Miss in the Fighting Rebs.
Iowa State, we were talking about them earlier. Their toughest game remaining on their schedule. They're on the road taking on West Virginia and the Mountaineers. The Mountaineers are a 3-point dog, and the total sitting at 51.5. Max is going to take the Cyclones.
I'm going to take the Mountaineers at home. West Virginia's played a lot of big games. Can't say that Iowa State really has.
Yeah.
And I think Morgantown's going to be rocking, and I think it's going to be a huge home field advantage. I think they find a way to pull out the dub.
Game day's at Texas, Oklahoma? No, Ohio State, Oregon, right?
I would imagine.
I don't know where it's at.
I would
honestly.
say probably not Texas, Oklahoma, because I would imagine they're probably holding out for Georgia, Texas next week. But I'd have to double check.
Yeah, well, we will do that here in a few short moments, I'm sure. Before we get out of here, we've only got 3 minutes, though, so you never know. Kansas State. We've been talking about Avery Johnson since you brought him to everyone's attention. They're on the road taking on the Buffaloes of Colorado. Colorado, 3.5-point dog here, and a lot of home dogs this week, isn't there? 56.5 is the total.
Give me K-State. I'm rolling with the Wildcats.
And Max is as well. We'll dive into the NFL. For this Thursday night football, you can listen to this game right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting at 6:30 for a 7:15 kick. 49ers at the Seahawks. Max has got the Niners.
I got the Hawks. I love home teams on Thursday night, so just by fault.
I like it. It's kind of like your Friday strategy here.
It didn't pan out for me, so we're going to see. Hopefully this one works better.
Colts at the Titans. This game is on the docket just because it's the closest spread of all of the NFL games. So Colts at the Titans. Titans are a 1-point home dog, and the total sitting at 42.5. Max has got the Indianapolis Colts.
Give me the fighting Flaccos.
Yeah, I'm just going to plead the fifth on this game because I don't want to take my division rival, but I know that the Titans aren't about to win.
Won't pick it on the air. We'll just pick it on the sheet and not talk about it.
Yeah. Bucks at the Saints. Saints a 2.5-point home dog here. We're just going to keep the trend rolling right on through. 42.5. Man, it's everywhere. Home dogs are just every single NFL game is a home dog.
Carr got shaken up towards the end of last night's game. Not sure what his status will be, so give me the Bucks. Even dealing with all the Milton fallout.
That line will change a lot, I'm sure, if Carr's not able to go. Bengals at the Giants. Giants are a 3.5-point home dog on Sunday Night Football. Weird Sunday Night Football game. I would like to see this one flexed out of, but it's neither here nor there. Bengals at the Giants.
This is a game the Bengals have to have if they want any hope of making the playoffs or salvaging the season. So give me the Bengals.
And we'll talk about the team who we started talking on the show, or started with on the show today, the New York Jets. They host the Buffalo Bills. The Jets are a 2.5-point dog, and the total is sitting at 41.5.
I had the Bills written down, but I may have to change my pick to the Jets because we always see that coach gets fired next week up. They always seem to win. So I may have to change my. But right now I got the Bills taking it.
That one's, and you guys all know you can hit me up and change your pick as long as we have it verified via text, and we'll be good to go. 850-215-6290, man. If maybe we can get someone in on Thursday evening to be a guest picker for us here. I want to try to maybe next year add that like super dog element to what it is that we're doing, where you can just take any dog that you want and add it, and if they hit, then you end up winning like 2 points or something like that. Helps people catch up. We do got a really tight race going though on in our pick'em. It's been that's one of my favorite things that I look forward to throughout the year, doing it with you guys. I mean, I'm in so many different other pick'ems, but when we're picking live on the air, that makes it a lot of fun. Well, Tyler, your Tuesday takes have gone up in the air, and again, another 2-hour show that just felt like it was 20 minutes long. It's always fun having you on. What are we looking forward to? What's the one thing you're looking forward to from college football this Saturday?
I got to see them dogs roll. And obviously the Oregon-Ohio State game. That's going to be the big game. Game day is there. I think that's going to tell us a lot. I mean,
wait, Georgia's on a bye this week?
No, we play the Bizarro Bulldogs, Mississippi State.
Oh, the Bizarro Bulldogs. Bulldogs number 2. That's going to do it for us today. Y'all have a great evening. Be safe out there. And as always, call or text us. We got the Coach James House Show live at 7 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and the Inside Drive from 11 a.m. to 1 with Ryan Mulvey right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Just remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the radio home of the Mosley Dolphins.
This Friday night, we're going under the lights. The 6-0 Mosley Dolphins face undefeated district rivals, the Niceville Eagles, as two powerhouses collide. Pre-game at 6, kickoff at 7. Mosley Dolphin football on ESPN Northwest Florida is sponsored by Panama City Toyota, Orthopedic Specialist, and Chapman Wealth Management.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, some clouds and a low of 72 with a gentle breeze coming out of the east-northeast around 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, mostly clouds and a temp near 79. In the afternoon and evening, a wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 81. For Thursday, sunshine and a high of 81. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
Bestway Portable Buildings has been your portable building specialist since 1989. Before you invest your hard-earned money someplace else, owner Jason Mulder invites you to stop by Bestway and get a quote on just about any size building. And whether you buy with Bestway or not, it's worth the trip just to meet Bestway Buddy. Say hello, buddy. Good boy. Bestway Portable Buildings, just north of Harts Marine on 231, and online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. The best in portable, period. Tell them Buddy sent ya.
WVLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lincoln, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Cowbells and swamp, the ag is wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprises, from Williams Brice to Death Valley. On the Five Bomb Show, Paul's on the road. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul. He'll make sense of it all. Neil's up on Rocky Top, the Razorbacks are hard to stop.